You can sew almost anything into the canvas of a coat. When I was a boy, I started to hide things in the linings of the garments. Things that only I knew were there. Secrets.
Good morning.
Will you have dinner with me?
Yes.
I feel as if I've been looking for you for a very long time. You look beautiful. Very beautiful. I have things I want to do. Things I simply cannot do without you.
Reynolds has made my dreams come true, and I have given him what he desires most in return. Every piece of me. Why are you not married?
Her arrival has cast a very long shadow.
She's barely looked at you this evening, has she?
May I warn you of something? My brother can feel cursed, that love is doomed for him.
I don't like the fabric.
Maybe one day you'll change your taste.
Maybe I like my own taste.
Just enough to get you into trouble.
Perhaps I'm looking for trouble.
Stop! There is an air of quiet death in this house.
You're not cursed, you're loved by me. Stop playing this game.
What game? What precisely is the nature of my game?
All your rules and your clothes and all this money and everything is a game.
This was an ambush.
Stop.
Are you sent here to ruin my evening and possibly my entire life?
Stop it! Whatever you do it carefully.
Hello, welcome to Movie Humpers. I am Bob Sham.
And I'm Angela.
And the sounds you hear may be dogs. This month is a heavy hitters month. We're just there's going to be more good movies. This week alone.
Oh my God.
Is kind of huge.
Yeah.
And this time for our strange romance topic, which last week was Crimes of the Future.
Yeah.
And this week is done by an up-and-coming director, an indie guy, maybe you've heard of him, by the name of Paul Thomas Anderson.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was just going to... No, go ahead.
No,
I was just going to say that this movie, this month is perfect. Like, we've been having these heavy hitters that we missed, but like the idea, like these strange romance films... I could watch every single day. I don't like the classic bullshit, like, love story, meet cute, Julia Roberts situation.
Yeah.
I grew up watching that shit. It's fine, but it's also stupid. I like things that are, like, more...
That stuff has its charm.
It does, but it has it's charming, but it's not, like...
It's not like
good.
this.
It doesn't, like get you.
Yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson, I guess his period piece movies, he doesn't have many. I guess Boogie Nights does count.
Yes, because it's the 70s.
And then you had There Will Be Blood. And it's kind of I go back and forth in my mind whether my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie is There Will Be Blood or the one we are talking about today, Phantom Thread. Before
this, I would have said my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie was Magnolia, because I was very obsessed with it. I still, on the reg, listen to the soundtrack for that movie.
What does reg mean?
Regular.
Oh.
I'm cool.
Okay.
I'm very cool. V cool. That's me.
V?
Obs.
Your vagina cool? Obs to OBS Studio, the program I use?
Listen.
I'm confused.
Anyway, I would have said Magnolia. Now, it is Phantom Thread.
Phantom Thread.
This is my new favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and it might be one of my favorite movies. I love this movie.
It is also written by Paul Thomas Anderson, starring Daniel Day-Lewis.
The King.
We saw him when we discussed My Beautiful Laundrette.
In, like, his first film, right?
Yeah.
Or first, like, notoriety.
His first notable
his first, like,
role, yeah.
When people were like, oh, we got to watch this kid.
Vicky Cripps. It's spelled Krieps. She plays Alma. Mm-hmm. Daniel Day-Lewis is playing a fellow by the name of Reynolds Woodcock. I didn't make that up.
Yeah.
And Leslie Manville plays Cyril, Reynolds Woodcock sister.
Yes.
And she does.
That's hard to say. Reynolds Woodcock's sister,
Woodcock.
Cyril. It's like
So she's Cyril Woodcock. I don't think she's married.
No, she's not. They talk about that because he's a dressmaker. He's a designer, and the first dress he ever made was his mother's wedding dress. And there's this thing where if you work on a wedding dress, if you touch a wedding dress, you're never going to get married. And Cyril helped him with the wedding dress. That's all she does is touch wedding dresses. And she has just been with him their whole lives. You can just tell they have this like routine that they're in. And at first I thought I didn't like her, but she's just fucking cool.
No, don't turn it on me. I don't want your cloud on my head.
Shut up,
no, you can shut right up. Don't pick a fight with me. You certainly won't come out alive. I'll go right through you and it'll be you who ends up on the floor. Understood?
She's kind of put up like she's going to be an antagonist, but she's actually, while she is loyal to her brother and keeping this business, he's a dressmaker for high society in post-war England. I'm guessing this takes place in like the late 40s in London. And she's very much protective of her brother, but she's also respects the elements, the Alma element that is defiant.
Challenging.
In the House of Order. She kind of begrudgingly respects that. Because
I think that the two of them, Reynolds and Cyril, are in such a routine that what's the right word? He's dependent upon her. She is allowing him to behave the way that he behaves. Yeah. For the sake of the art. But honestly, like, I love Alma comes in and she's like, I think he's weak and he's being selfish. And, it's so cool to see someone. Anyway, we need to tell the story, but it's so good. She's also like his life agent as well, Cyril is. Yeah, like she's basically like the manager.
At the very beginning of it, she says to Reynolds at breakfast, like, talks about a girl that's been working for them and he's like, are you just going to be a ghost to this girl? Or do you want me to like let her go for you?
She's not been working. She's his girlfriend.
Yeah.
She's not been working for him.
Yeah.
That's because there's this part where at the very beginning, you realize that like he does this in cycles. He finds a new muse until he tires of them. Yeah. Right. And so this girl looks at him and says, I'm just waiting. Like, is there anything I can say to make you pay attention to me again? Yeah. And then, Cyril's like, you need to just let her go. Yeah, just get rid of her. Just let her go.
Well, she offers to do it for him, and she does.
Oh, yeah. She's like, I'll give her the October dress. Yeah. It's like you decide they're going to, like, give her a parting gift. Oh, yeah. It's like, take this and goodbye.
Here's your designer dress for putting in your time. Thank you.
Yeah. And you can tell they've done this over and over again.
So Reynolds goes to his favorite countryside little breakfast joint, and he gets his Welsh rarebit. And
I think it's important to note for what we're going to talk about later that this is right after a big show or like something huge has just happened. Yeah. And so he needs to relax. He's drained, right? Yeah. And so Cyril says to him, go to the country tonight. I'll meet you there later. So he goes to the country.
So he goes to this restaurant and he sees this waitress there, and she's like a French girl. She's kind of country. Right?
She's totally country. She's literally like a ruddy-cheeked country girl.
And they instantly make a connection.
Yeah.
And it's not clear if maybe he has been seeing her for a while.
I don't know.
And that they just now communicate here. Or if this is the first time that they've laid eyes on. They can't stop staring at each other. And they're just grinning like children as they get closer and closer. In this movie, it's not so much about like love, because you get that there's a real connection at the beginning. It's a story of how this couple not only fell for each other, but learned that they are forever bound together.
Yeah, they need each other to survive.
Yeah.
And that's what's amazing. And I think when you just were talking about that, do you know what it reminded me of?
What?
The relationship in Thief. Yeah. Where we had this same conversation where you were like, I think he's been seeing her. And I was like, no, I think this is the first time. No. When you know, you fucking know.
Well, when you're not sure, then you've done a pretty good job of having that connection be apparent?
I think they just immediately, because she tells him her name. They've never met. Well, she writes it down.
Alma.
He orders a shit ton of food. And she writes him this note, and she's
that's
like...
That's the English breakfast. Eat like a whole horse, and then you're good until dinner.
Oh, yeah, but she writes on this little note, for the hungry boy,
yeah,
my name is Alma.
Yeah.
After he's asked her to dinner.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
And then...
He also looks younger immediately. Did you notice that? He looked really old at the beginning because he was like tired and like stressed. And then when he saw her, it's like he... lost 10 years, 15 years.
Well, what can you say about old DDL, old Daniel Day, right? I mean, the guy, it ain't hype. This dude is like the actor.
He's amazing.
Like, he's so good with the subtlety and he's good at tension. He's good at like when he looks genuinely sincere, he's good at that. I mean, this guy, he's got... Well, I thought he was gay while I was sitting through My Beautiful Laundrette. I was like, oh, he's gay. He's not really.
No, I wondered in this movie.
Yeah, at the
very beginning,
for a hot second,
I was like, does he even fuck these girls? But he does.
The dressmaker, he's got to be gay, right? Right?
Well, he gives her this speech about how he's a confirmed bachelor and he's never meant to be married.
Yeah,
and he's not like... They're flirty, but he's not like hitting on her, and we don't even see them kiss for a long time. But he's putting clothes on her, and that's like more intimate.
Yeah. Because
as soon as the night he meets her, they go to dinner, and then he takes her back to the house in the country, and he immediately starts fitting her for a dress.
Yeah.
And you know that as soon as he's doing that she's there to stay, and she knows too.
But when they're doing the fitting, and he's fitting her for a dress a little later, it's suddenly become, because he's so laser focused on his job.
Yeah.
It goes from being something that's really cool to her, and you could tell it's starting to make her uncomfortable.
Well,
because
Cyril shows up.
He snaps into a zone. Mm-hmm. And Cyril comes up, and it just makes the whole scenario seem a lot more like business. So it becomes more awkward.
Well, because there's also a little bit of like Cyril throwing her weight around, because he asked her to take down the measurements. And she's measuring, and at one point he goes, you don't have any breasts. And she's like, I'm sorry. And he goes, no, you're perfect.
Yeah.
But then later, so he's like kind of critiquing her body a little, but he's also like telling her like he loves it.
Yeah.
Later, Cyril says to her, which like is a backhanded compliment. She goes, you're the perfect type. He likes a little tummy. Which is like, this girl is gorgeous and like thin and whatever, but it's just like she does look like a person, like a real person, you know, like her proportions are not like hourglass, you know. But just the fact that she says that, it's almost like,
and she rarely,
I've seen them come and go.
They're not even for movie purposes. I mean, maybe there's something there, but she's not really ever wearing makeup.
He takes her lipstick off at dinner.
And the one time she wears makeup, he has her take it off. Like, I want to see you. Mm-hmm. So we see just her natural beauty throughout the whole movie.
The only time she wears makeup in the movie after that, when she just kind of does it for him and then he asks her not to, he says, I like to see who I'm talking to, which I loved. The only time you see her in makeup after that is when she's modeling his outfits.
So after some time, they finally consummate the relationship in the extra rooms and where he works.
There. He lives there.
Yeah. And so we go to next day, and she's at breakfast, and she's buttering the toast, being really loud. She's chewing things really loud. And
she's like crunching and chomping and cutting.
And he's getting like really annoyed, and he's talking about how you're too loud. You need to chew quiet. Breakfast should be quiet. You can't be too loud at breakfast.
Yeah.
And you get that she totally understands. She's not oblivious at all. She understands that it's annoying the fuck out of him. And it's just kind of her way of like rattling this guy who is so structured in his life. And it's very funny.
She's not going to not be herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she's challenging him. She's getting him out of his comfort zone.
And so she begins, like, as it's alluded in his past relationships, she begins to work in the shop with him.
Yeah, within this big house, like he lives there, Cyril lives there. She moves in. He moves her in immediately. And then, every morning, all these women come to, and it's like 20 women, all his seamstresses.
And they're dressed in high society people, like royalty.
Yeah,
and
these seamstresses
celebs.
are all like older ladies. It's like Nana and Penny and Biddy are their names. Like they're very little old ladies.
And some time passes, and there's like some push and pull over small bits of control. And Reynolds gets annoyed, but he's always kind of coming back. And one day he's just not feeling very good. And he gets a little ill. And it's said that like he gets like that every few days. Oh, I forgot to state that this whole movie is framed around her narrating this to a man.
We find out,
And we find out the man is like their doctor.
Yeah.
But that's the whole movie is framed around her narrating, like telling the story of their relationship.
Yeah, so what happens when he doesn't feel well, what it is that he's crashing again because they've had this big show. They had this, like, display, like all the girls were in their dresses.
Right,
but it was, like, so stressful for him. Like, he gave so much of himself. And she's narrating this bit. She's like, he gives so much of himself that then he needs to calm down. And so they went to the country, just the two of them, and they were alone. And there's this part where she's, like, in bed, like, holding him. And she talks about how that's her favorite time when
he's a baby, a
he
spoiled
becomes a
little baby.
Well, he becomes a spoiled baby, but he's sweet and he's tender and he's open. And
Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it feels like it's the only time that he is himself 100%. Now, I don't think that part, but yeah, when you get really sick, like you're actually really sweet.
I'm a little baby.
You are.
I'm a spoiled little baby on my back.
When you're very sick, you are a spoiled little baby.
It really leaves a strong impression on her. And so when he starts to get better, he becomes more of a stern conservative dick again.
Yeah.
And so there's this one point but she's also very much, even though she's like from, a different class background, she becomes very much like she buys into his art, right? And there's this point where he's got to dress this high society woman.
Drunk.
And she comes in and she's drunk. And from the get-go, he's like, I don't want to do this. And Cyril's like, well, she pays for this house, right? So this lady's getting married for like, who knows, the upteenth time.
But he's dressing her for the engagement announcement. Like it's a big press event.
Yeah.
And so she's like, I want you to be there. I need you to be there. And he doesn't want to go.
Yeah. And so, she's pretty much begging him, says, you must be at my wedding. So they go.
At the press event.
And the press event, which is all kind of the same thing, right?
No, the wedding is going to be later. He doesn't make a wedding dress for her because the idea is that he's going to make this engagement dress for her, and then he would make the wedding dress. But she wants him to come there on that day to this like press event. I thought it was a wedding originally too, until I realized what was going on. And so it's this whole thing about she's marrying this foreign man. It's like her 5th marriage or some shit, and she's got this like adult son, but she's drunk and acting a fucking fool.
She's a total mess. And she gets taken back to...
She passes out.
Yeah, she passes out at her event, and they drag her back into her room, almost getting, like, upset. She knows what Reynolds is thinking. He's just mad about it. Because he takes his shit so serious. And this woman is just going to be all messy and gross in his clothes. And then Alma just goes to her room, they knock on the door. Her son answers, and they like force themselves in. And she's passed out on the dress. And they take the dress off. And Reynolds informs the family, Alma says,
it's no business of ours what Mrs. Rose decides to do with her life. But she can no longer behave like this and be dressed by the House of Woodcock.
They cut her off, but this is a lady that pays a lot.
But it doesn't fucking matter because he also dresses princesses, we find out soon after. But she obviously does give him a lot of money. But that was one of the sweetest, like, lovey scenes that he and Alma had was right after that. Because they're kind of running through the street with the dress. And he stops her at one point and just kisses her in the street.
Yeah.
Which you don't get that he's done that often. And he
Yeah,
just
yeah.
looks at her and he's like, thank you.
Because they're on the
Because
exact
Cyril
same...
would have been like, don't say a word. We need
Yeah,
her
yeah.
business. And she was like, she does not fucking deserve it.
Yeah, yeah.
She was like, oh, because she started to cry. And he's like, don't be sad over this. And she's like, I'm not sad. I'm mad.
He would have been high society polite about it. But her approach is to be like, give me that fucking dress. You're never wearing our shit ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah.
Because she respects
It got him hard.
It did. It did. But again, he always goes back to being stodgy.
Yeah, yeah. Always. So it's always that back and forth.
Got to get in his routine.
What did you think of the dresses?
I didn't like them.
You didn't I've got it on our little screen here. The one that Alma wears that is like a kind of a light pink.
That's one of the better ones.
Looks like, but you remember that frame shot? It's showing on the screen here. It looks kind of like a wedding dress, but that dress is stunning.
Wait, is it the lacy one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yes. The lacy one is gorgeous. So, there's also this thing where he sews things into dresses. Like, it's like a wish or a hope or a dream. And so with this dress, this lacy dress, he tells her that he's been saving this lace forever to make it into a dress. And he makes it for her to wear, and they do this big photo shoot and stuff. But he sews her name into the lining of this dress. Yeah. Like, this dress is for her. And he talks about, and he initially talks about this with his mother when he made her a dress for her second wedding. Mm-hmm. And he sewed something into there for her. But he was very close to his mother, and she died, of course. Mm-hmm. So another incident. Well, it's not an incident. She, Alma's been harvesting some plant life. She has been. She's been going out with the cooks and looking at mushrooms. And she's been collecting some mushrooms and studying with a little mushroom book to know the difference between the good mushrooms and the poison mushrooms. And before this, though, she tries to kick everyone out of the house. Oh, right. And have a night alone with him. Which she successfully does, but it doesn't work out. No, they fight. Like, she gets everyone out of the house, but he ends up it throws him off so much that he can't be nice. Like, and they end up fighting, and she's like, why the fuck am I here? I'm just waiting for you to make me leave. Yeah, yeah. But then they don't break up. They are figuring it out. And that's when we see her putting some stuff into a tea for him, or a martini or something like that, or a drink, a cocktail. Yeah, she put something in there. So she drinks it, and he gets sick. Yeah. And now when he gets sick, he's laid out, and there's this push and pull between her and Cyril. And we've established that Cyril kind of respects her, but Cyril still wants to kind of control, because that's all he let. Yeah. I mean, it's as much Reynolds' fault as it is Cyril's, that like they're constantly like, babying each other, having to be there. So Cyril will be like, come on, let him rest. But Alma will not leave his side. She closes the door behind Cyril and stays in the room. And of course, he becomes that spoiled little baby, that super sweet little boy. And that she gets to love and pet and take care of. And Cyril goes and gets a doctor. And the doctor comes to see him. And the doctor's like, fuck off. No. Reynolds tells the doctor to fuck off. He's like, Alma, there's an annoying little man in my room. Make him leave. And then he has a vision of his mother in the wedding dress that he made for her second wedding. And he sees the mother and he's talking to her. He's like, are you really there? Mm-hmm. And he tells her how much he misses her and how much he loves her. And then, of course, the door opens and it's Alma who comes back in. And that to him is like a sign. Because he says to his mother, I wish I could talk to you. Yeah. And then this woman who's taking care of him walks in the room. The next day, he feels a lot better. And he asks Alma to marry him. Yeah. And so it's just, it kind of like, he gets sick. It reinvigorates his passion, his understanding of his love for her. Did you also get that was the first time he said he loved her? Because she has said it a few times. Yeah, he didn't say it at first. And I think he realized in his, like, poisonous mushroom haze of, like, throwing up and having visions that he needs her.
Yeah.
And that he really does love her and he never wants her to go.
So they do get married. So her personal curse of touching wedding dresses doesn't happen. She marries.
Well, you know what he does?
What?
When he's making the wedding dress for the princess.
No curse or something like
he
that?
He does. He sews in the words never cursed. And sews that into the wedding dress because she's working on that wedding dress. And so he does it like for Alma to never be cursed. And it's so amazing because basically she poisons him during the making of this dress. And they have to stay up like all night fixing this dress. And she finds that. And it's also like her going, okay, I'm doing the right thing because he does actually really love me. Like she finds that because she has to undo because they have to redo the hymn. And she finds this little message. I don't know. It's just... It's like he left her a message that she was never supposed to see.
So the relationship isn't perfect from then on. There's a New Year's event, and he doesn't want to go. She wants to go dancing. All he knows is to work in his routines.
Yeah.
But like he's torn over the guilt. Like a basic relationship things are like an intense struggle for him.
Because whenever it's gotten hard at all, he's just said goodbye.
So she just leaves to go dance for New Year's Eve, and he eventually does go find her at an event, and there's this one part where some float thing almost falls on her, and he has to go and he goes and like finds her, and it's really interesting because he pulls her and she pulls her out of shot, and then we leave New Year's Eve, right? And we don't see what happened right after that shot until a little later, but there's a point where he's just. Well, the business has slowed down a bit. He dressed a princess and stuff, but after that, like certain clients are going to other houses for other dresses
because they're wanting things more chic, which is a word he
and
hates.
He's definitely more of a probably why you don't like the dresses that much. They do feel a little stodgy, at least most of them.
They are stuffy, but that's okay.
I don't know if stodgy was the right word, but
well, I called him stodgy earlier, but the dresses are stuffy. I mean, it's very regal.
Yeah,
they're very classic. That's why I do like the dress he makes for her the most. The dresses he makes for her, because when she's inspiring him, it is more youthful and it is beautiful.
So there's this scene where Reynolds is just frustrated.
Oh God, yeah.
And he's talking to Cyril, and Alma comes in behind him, but he's just talking, and you can know that he senses that she's there, and he's telling Cyril like, she casts a long shadow over this house. We built this house.
I've made mistakes in my life.
I've made a mistake.
And I need you to help me get out of it, he says.
She does not belong in this house. But she's not gone.
Mm-mm.
She just still hangs in there. And then we get this awesome scene in the movie.
This scene.
Where he's sitting in the kitchen and she's making...
They're out in the country again.
She's done a few more... She's been picking some more plants, right?
And she makes him some tea.
Yeah, well, an omelet.
Oh, it is an omelet. You're right. She cooks the mushrooms.
She's chopping up the mushrooms.
Oh, and he hates butter.
Yeah, he hates butter. He despises it. She does this all the time. Anything that he says he hates food wise, she will cook the thing that she hates, and she does it on purpose because that's her way of loving him, to rattle him out of his day to day and the things that he wants.
And there's this moment. So he's sitting at the table. And she's in the kitchen, and they're very close to each other, like 10 feet away. And she's preparing this whole thing, and he's watching it. And it's not spoken in so many words, but there's this moment of understanding that comes over his face when she hands him the omelet.
Yeah.
And
he knows.
He says something, and she says,
I want you flat on your back. Helpless, tender, open, with only me to help.
You know I'll take care of you.
Like, I'm not this. You'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. And he's like, I know.
And while she's sitting there watching him,
he's
slowly eating this omelet
that he knows is going to make him sick.
Yeah, like this scene where he slowly eats this omelet and they're just looking at each other. And he knows he's going to eat something that's just going to turn him into a fragile little baby.
So good. And then
And it cuts to a scene where, like, he's got this bowl where he's throwing up, but they're, like, he's sick.
But they're, like,
laughing.
They're, like, cuddling and stuff, kind of. And then he goes, you may want to call your doctor. And she's like, you don't trust me? And he's like, I do, but maybe just to be sure. And then he's like, and you may want to leave now. And she kisses him on the head and she leaves and he starts puking. And then there's kind of some flash forward stuff about what she imagines their life might be, but the most important moment is at the very end.
Yeah, and she's describing, like, basically their love and how it will last forever and ever, even and well into the beyond. And she's talking to their doctor, the one that he doesn't like.
Even if he were to die tonight, so the doctor's gotten there. And she's like, even if he dies tonight, it doesn't matter because I will find him in the next life. And we are bound to each other.
And then we see that Reynolds has been late, and this whole time where she's talking to this doctor, narrating the story, outlining the story for us, that Reynolds has been laying his head in her lap the entire time.
You know, though, that she did not tell the doctor that she poisoned him.
Yeah.
She set that up at the beginning when she was talking about how he gets so into his work that then he crashes, and it happens every few months.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this is.
He's sick for a few days.
He's sick for a few days every few months, and he resets.
Yeah.
And then he's better.
And that's when we get the flashback of them dancing in the middle of that New Year hall together.
After it's all over.
After everyone has left. And really, I mean, great shots here. I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson did his own cinematography. He refuses to take credit as a cinematographer, but he did
an amazing
but he
one.
did his own cinematography here.
I thought that was the next New Year's because I thought she had on a different dress, but then it shows her with a baby carriage and them leaving a baby with Cyril, and then it shows them doing something else. But to me, it's because then she goes, and I imagine our life, and she's like saying all these things, and then that's when you realize he's in her lap because he says to her, but we're still here right now.
Yeah.
And she's like, yes, we are here right now.
Yeah.
And we're together. And like, that's all that matters kind of deal.
This is an interesting form of Munchausen's.
Yeah, it's not Munchausen's.
No, it is.
Well,
their relationship bonds when she poisons him. He knows that she's poisoning him, and he accepts it because it makes their love stronger. So yeah, this is a fucking like Munchausen's by proxy kind of.
Okay,
it's
not Munchausen's. It's Munchausen's dependent or something. Like there's got to be a different phrase for it because he knows and he's okay with it.
It's sexy Munchausen's. It's sexy Munchausen's is what it is. And that's the movie Phantom Thread, and what a great movie.
Oh my god. Yeah.
I was kind of blown away a few years ago when I watched it.
I can't believe I've never seen it or that you didn't have me watch it before.
I don't know. I don't think you knew anything about it.
Didn't.
I was like describing it, and I mentioned the term erotic Munchausen's to you years ago, and you went ooh, but you never remember what I say unless you can personally associate it visually.
Yeah, I have to. I'm a very visual person. It's hard for me.
Because the reality is that I've told you about this movie 10 times.
But yeah, if I'd seen a preview for it or scenes of it even, I might have remembered it. It's really hard for me if I don't have a visual memory.
But you finally got to it. So,
oh my God, I'm never going to forget it.
And now we're going to hump this movie 1 through 5.
Okay, I'm ready.
Combined for best out of 10. Go ahead.
5. I fucking love this movie. And I wouldn't change a thing about it. And even though the dresses were not my style, everything was perfect.
Will any week be as good as this one? Will any... We're in a predicament again where like we need some shitty movies. We need to watch some shitty movies. Maybe they're coming. We might get a bunch of middling ones.
We haven't gone to see some of these summer films we said we were going to see. And I have a feeling there's a few bombs in there.
When we did the summer preview, there was no way we were going to watch all those movies. I knew
but I thought we were a few.
Well, yeah, we're still going to watch a few, but I knew that we were going to watch most of those movies.
It's too much. It'd be too much.
Yeah. Oh, I also give it a 5. So, so that's 2 episodes in a row with a perfect movie score.
What are our other 10s?
Our 10s, I can't remember. Sunset Boulevard's a 9.75.
Yeah.
How did it? I forget how.
It was your fault.
All right. Well, I'm going to make it a 10 right now.
Okay, you gave it a 4.75, and I was mad at you. I was like, Bobby, how?
Listen, it doesn't. If it's an S tier, they're all amazing.
That was what you said that day. I'm sorry, I keep laughing. Loud.
All right. Well, is it?
What are the
Honestly,
what are the 10s?
Sunset Boulevard should probably be. Sunset Boulevard is 4th in S tier. It probably should be number 1.
What are all the 10s? We'll reorder them right now.
After the Sun, Thief, Paris, Texas, and Sunset Boulevard.
And now,
Phantom Thread. Where in there do you think Phantom Thread belongs?
so we put After Sun above Thief,
Yes.
above Paris, Texas,
Yes.
above Sunset Boulevard.
Right. But they're all like
Perfect.
equal.
Yeah. I think that this one should be a 10, but under Sunset Boulevard.
All right. But there you go, folks. Phantom Threads in league with Sunset Boulevard, Thief, Paris, Texas, and After Sun.
Yes.
I mean, we see that we got a number 1 After Sun, but honestly, you could jumble this order. It doesn't really matter.
They could all just be on a line next to each other.
Yeah, it's just because we got that elder millennial brain, we just got to make everything into a fucking list for whatever reason. But there you go, Phantom Thread. If this one kind of quietly came and went, it did surpass its budget of $35 million at a $47.8 million, probably because of international audience again. But Paul Thomas Anderson is kind of one of those guys, and this movie came out in Christmas of 2017. You'll recall that his other movie, Licorice Pizza, came out in Christmas of 2021. He seems to be swinging for that. So he's one of these guys that is able to get a good movie on a prestigious, broadly marketed scale. Whether or not it hits or misses, that's where the cookies are crumbling with modern movies. Mm-hmm. Oh, and we haven't talked about it. There's been a writer's strike going on. So like by the end of the year, it may just all be like older movies that we talk about, period.
That's true.
But let's move along.
See.
Next week, we will continue with some heavy hits. All right? Will they be as good as this week? I don't know. This week is very strong.
We got to watch Let the Right One In soon.
I'll be early next month.
Okay.
All right. So check the show notes for links and places to find us.
Death to all traitors.
Death to all traitors.